It is 10:03 on WTOP on this Thursday morning, January 9th. Our coverage of the state funeral of former President Jimmy Carter continues now on this National Day of Mourning. His state funeral getting underway at the Washington National Cathedral. WTOP's Kyle Cooper is outside of the cathedral, and he joins us live. Kyle? We're having a connection issue with Kyle right now. We'll get back with him. WTOP Capitol Hill correspondent Mitchell Miller has been watching this morning as the body of the former president was taken from the Capitol Rotunda to the National Cathedral. Mitchell is joining us live now as we continue with our coverage.
And Mark, before I discuss what happened here at the Capitol a few minutes ago, the casket of former President Jimmy Carter is now being taken out of the hearse in front of Washington National Cathedral, where some of the most powerful people in the country, including 5 current and former presidents, are gathered. Meanwhile, here at the Capitol, former President Carter's legacy was felt for 3 days as thousands of members of the public paid their respects while he was lying in state in the rotunda. And this morning, military personnel marched smartly into place for a brief ceremony marking his departure from the Capitol. The Carter family was here for this moment, and before traveling with the motorcade to Washington National Cathedral, where the state funeral is now underway, the motorcade, after leaving the Capitol, made one final drive past the White House, where Carter, of course, served as the 39th president from 1976 to 1980. Right now, the flag draped casket of former President Carter is about to enter the Washington National Cathedral. This will be the final stage of a 6-day state funeral that began in Georgia. Mark?
We have been watching this morning inside the cathedral the gathering of dignitaries, including the current and former presidents of the United States, all here for this final farewell to Jimmy Carter. This is an unusual scene in getting all of these folks together to pay final respects to a deceased president.
Yeah, and Mark, it's a unique situation where you have former President Barack Obama, who Donald Trump once accused of not being a U.S. citizen, sitting right next to Donald Trump and chit chatting with him for several minutes as this funeral gets underway. You also have Mike Pence, the former vice president, with Donald Trump, who is sitting just a few rows behind. Interestingly enough, he is sitting next to former Vice President Al Gore, who, of course, was part of one of the closest presidential races in history, and they are sitting next to each other. And then you have former President Bill Clinton there, former President George W. Bush, and it was just in 2018 that his father, George H.W. Bush, was remembered here at a state funeral. Jimmy Carter actually attended that funeral just a few years ago, 2018. So Jimmy Carter, of course, lived to 100. George H.W. Bush lived to 95. But going back to the President's Club, it really is a unique situation that you just don't find any other time than a state funeral. Right now, the state funeral is about to start. They are holding the casket right outside the cathedral doors, and the flag draped casket will go inside, and then the ceremonies will begin. And of course, as we mentioned, President Biden will be giving a eulogy during the ceremony. Mark?
Thank you, Mitchell. Let's go back now outside the Washington National Cathedral. That's where we find WTOP's Kyle Cooper. Kyle?
Yeah, Mark, as Mitch has been mentioning, they are just about to bring former Carter's casket inside the National Cathedral. The military guard here has been doing its precision work of carefully removing that casket from the hearse and then step by step up the iconic steps of the National Cathedral and about to enter in so that this can serve this. There have been a lot of dignitaries moving in and out of this place today. We're told that some 3,000 people will actually be inside for the ceremony, and of course, President Biden giving the eulogy. They're about to make those final steps into the National Cathedral for this funeral. Reporting live outside the National Cathedral, Kyle Cooper, WTOP News.